So in that case, could you explain one thing to me?
Sure.
Why is it that everybody believes that I wear a toupee? I feel like we should finally address this issue once and for all, okay?
Okay.
Hello, people of San Andreas, y hola a todos en Cayo Perico, and welcome to the very first episode of the Jack Lamb Podcast, what I'm sure is to become the #1 piece of media in the entirety of San Andreas and in Cayo Perico. I am here today joined by some people who have been with me since day one. Here are my co-hosts for today, Mr. Bruce Wesson.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the podcast.
Bruce, you've been with me for a very long time. You were the former head of security. Now you're in charge of some production at the Lamb News Network.
That is very true. I believe you fired me from that position.
Yes, yeah. We may get into that later. Yeah. I'm sure there's still some things to settle in regard to that matter. I'm also very joined by Lilyanna Lockwood, my trusty assistant with the pink hair. Lilyanna.
That's me.
Lilyanna, is there anything you want to say about the rumors that you are constantly getting kidnapped?
I don't know if I'd call those rumors. I think that's just a fact at this point. It's been going on for, oh gosh, almost a couple years now.
Yeah. I mean, I think you were kidnapped by people wearing the Burger King logo at least twice, right? I mean, you've been kidnapped by every single person in this town.
Oh yeah, a bunch of different kinds of people, you know. It doesn't get any easier.
No, of course not. And lastly, we have here today the most beautiful woman in San Andreas, coming right before Lilyanna Lockwood, who is second. But I'm a little biased here. We have Mrs. Cass Lamb, my wife. Cass, how are you today?
Why'd you introduce me last?
Well,
you were going to say last.
Cass,
you didn't, though.
You have to understand. You saved the best for last, right?
Yeah, he didn't say best but not least.
No.
Okay, thanks for clarifying that before.
Yes, some of you might recognize my wife, Cass Lamb, from our wedding, which was very hasty, but still nonetheless extremely momentous. And there were some circumstances in that wedding, mostly... Well, actually, there's still legal matters, right, about, you getting roped up in a helicopter by Alex Thornberry of Weasel News. And we can maybe discuss that a little bit later. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, this is our panel for today, and I am very excited for the future of this podcast. We're going to have all types of guests. It's probably typically going to be just me interviewing some of the most famous people in San Andreas. Jimmy Carter, the mayors, perhaps one day even Mick Long, the governor. Anyone you can think of. And as long as they're famous enough, our doors are open into the podcast. Because again...
Mr. Lamb.
Yes, Bruce?
You mentioned earlier that you wanted this podcast to be the most popular in, Los Santos, San Andreas, but you didn't mention Blaine County. Do you think that you can actually end up beating the Hulk Hogan podcast that happens there?
Hulk Hogan is an interesting figure because he says some things that, I'm sure it rallies some of the Blaine County crowd, but... for once he called me a toupee-wearing monster on his podcast, and that type of defamation is not something that we'll be doing on this podcast, which is why I'm sure we'll beat him. We'll beat him eventually.
Yeah, I think of it like #1 on Spotify. Easily.
I hope so. I really do hope so. No one is going to do what we're about to do. And that's all I'll say about that. The things we have in store, you better subscribe right now to this podcast. Subscribe to the Lamb News Network so you make sure you don't miss any episodes of the podcast.
Subscribe.
Now that we've got the introduction out of the way, a quick word from our sponsor. I don't know about you, I've been tired from working so hard recently, which is why I recommend Cayo Perico as a prime vacation destination. Who needs the Bahamas when Cayo Perico already has the same palm trees, oceans, and views, but at half the price? Cayo Perico is also the only vacation destination that has a perfect rating for pleasure and safety in the San Andreas Travel Organization. In fact, El Presidente wants to extend a deal for all Jack Lamb podcast listeners. If you sign up for a vacation within the next 24 hours and use code LAMB, upon checkout, you'll receive a 10% discount on all travel, housing, and dining costs. Don't wait. Hasta pronto en Cayo Perico. Well, where do we begin, folks?
Wait, Mr. Lamb, you said there's a travel deal for Jack Lamb listeners?
Yes.
For Perico?
Yes.
I'll be back.
No, Mr. Wesson, you have to finish recording the podcast, of course. Bruce.
Oh, well, it was such
Can
a
I
good
come
deal.
with?
I didn't want to miss it, you know? It was such a good deal.
No. You have plenty of time. Plenty of time, Wesson.
Okay, good.
Wesson, you strike me as a reasonable man.
Yeah, I would like to think that I am.
Okay. So in that case, could you explain one thing to me?
Sure.
Why is it that everybody believes that I wear a toupee? I feel like we should finally address this issue once and for all, okay?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's the thing is, like, when I first met you, Mr. Lamb, I'm pretty sure you had real hair back then, but
What?
just the
Wait,
stress of being a main businessman and being like a celebrity at
Bruce.
this point, it's like, I think that's kind of just like taking your hair away. I'm pretty sure, because sometimes I'll walk into like your house and just suddenly I'll just see you over there and no
Ladies
hair.
and
It's
gentlemen,
like,
he's joking, of course.
Cass,
Cass, could you please clarify, as my wife, I'm sure you know me best, could you please inform the audience and perhaps offer your theory as to why they believe I wear a toupee?
So, like, I get it, right? I mean, like, he's a kind of suspicious guy, you know? You would think, like, I would know, but to be honest, like, I kind of have no clue. Like, I live in the same house as him. Like, I don't share a room for obvious reasons.
Oh, y'all live away in different rooms?
Like,
we sleep separately.
Yeah.
In different beds.
But on that note, like, I see him a lot, right? So, like, I haven't seen him without it, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again. If he was wearing a toupee, why would he choose such a bad toupee?
Okay. All right. Yeah. All right.
That is
Lilyanna,
also a very good point.
Of all the choices for any kind of hair you could have, like, you
Lilyanna,
could have, like, my hair.
could you please speak some sense into these two? Seriously.
It's bad hair care.
Yeah. See, it literally, like it looks like it could be easily pulled off just by like touching it.
I'm just saying, Mr. Lamb, if you got more Vinewood magic, your problems would
All
just
right.
go
All right.
away.
This was clearly a terrible idea.
Mr. Lamb, are you ever just gonna give us a real shot to just pull on your hair? Because I mean, if we pulled on your
Bruce.
hair, that would literally solve it.
Bruce, the point of this segment, I made it the first one so that people stopped asking me about the toupee. All this
but
is doing is instilling more suspicion into an already cautious audience.
You know what? To our audience,
I mean,
just if you see Mr. Lamb just walking around, feel free to just pull his toupee off. I mean,
No.
I'm pretty sure.
Hey, no, I didn't
think-
say he had one. Oh, go ahead.
I think it's
Cass.
real. I think his hair is real. I don't think he would pick such a bad one.
Exactly. That's why
Okay.
I'm saying he just has bad hair care routines.
Well, thank you. You know what? I'll take it.
I'll just be the conspiracy theorist here who
Yeah,
knows
yeah.
the truth.
All right.
Who knows what's real and what's obviously not.
Anyway.
Bruce, let's be real. Like, look at it though. Like, would you pick that?
No,
as your
okay.
hair?
All right. Anyway.
I would
anyway.
never pick that. If I was gonna wear a toupee,
Yeah.
like why would
That's what I'm
that be
talking.
the option?
Mhm.
Like
Let's
I
see
think
the
that would be like the
hairline.
last choice.
Next topic. It's been a month since the election, and those of you who are listening, some of you might be aware that I ran for governor in the last San Andrean gubernatorial election. And, we got quite close. In fact, I was able to successfully rally most of the other candidates onto my side, so that we even had a chance against the popular governor Meek Yu Long. Cass, what was it like, being the wife of a politician? I mean, I never thought I'd become a politician, but Clearly, circumstances compelled me to. And what was it like, Cass?
Embarrassing.
Okay.
You really put me on the spot a couple of times, gotta say. I don't like being seen with you. So being like a public figure with you.
Bruce,
something else
I'm sorry for interrupting. I just saw Bruce wanted to speak. Bruce, what was it like working on the backside of such a huge campaign? I mean, even though we didn't win, we had, what, 45% of the vote total? That is massive.
Well, yeah, that is actually a lot of people. I'm not even going to lie. But,
it's a lot more than anyone was expecting, certainly.
I feel like at the beginning when you had like 2 or 3 votes, it was like that was your boost. You know what I mean? Like that just kind of pushed you even more at the beginning to just go all out on this campaign.
Yes, sure, yeah. And the diss track, too. Those of you who are listening to this podcast, man, if you haven't seen the diss track I made against Governor Mickey Long, that thing alone probably boosted me by 10% in this election. Man, I should have made another one. That would have been it, huh?
That'd have been, honestly, I feel like that would have been the one. If you'd like displayed that at the very end, could you imagine how much that would push people?
Yeah, exactly. Lilyanna, during the election also, we had a lot of security, didn't we? We had like 3 different security forces protecting us at all times. We had ScrewChew, run by Phantom Skull, who is currently the mayor of Los Santos. We had the Lamb News Peace Department, which is always with us. But most importantly, we had the USSS, the United States Secret Service. And with those 3 combined, were you ever kidnapped?
Well, it's been so long. If I try to think about it, I'm not actually sure. I think there was that one time where you had a house party and then I think some guy kidnapped me. I don't know.
You don't remember.
They all kind of blur together, don't they?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, wow. Oh, that's just I don't remember a single instance during the election. And ever since. I don't think even wow. That's amazing. That's like a 3-month break?
Yeah.
I think so.
Ladies and gentlemen listening to the podcast, please leave in the comments. Congratulations to Lilyanna Lockwood for avoiding kidnap for, I think this is 3 months now.
I mean, to be fair, Mr. Lamb, I was kind of out of state in a completely different state.
Because we sent you to the Bahamas to protect you.
Yeah.
But it still counts, right?
Yeah, that still counts. I mean, people in the Bahamas can kidnap people.
Yeah, but they don't care about me in the Bahamas. They only care about me here,
Lilyanna. I mean,
don't say that.
Yeah, sure, you're an assistant, but you're my assistant. You are world famous, Lilyanna. You are the best assistant in the world. Of course, you're known everywhere.
I don't know about world famous. Maybe state famous.
Lilyanna, the National Guard was jealous of you. They called you a pink-haired dog. Of course, you're well known.
Listen. That was a sole person, and I think that they were at fault for their wording. And it was a on-the-spot moment. It is not indicative of who or
we all know that one person speaking for the National Guard means the entire National Guard thinks that, Lilyanna.
To provide the viewers a little context, shortly before I began my run for governor, and not many people know this, I actually met with the head of the National Guard to discuss my platform of seceding from the United States and making San Andreas an independent state, an independent country. And I actually got a letter in the mail from the National Guard basically threatening me that if I was elected and attempted to pursue such a platform that I'd be removed from office and replaced with a loyalist government. So I set up a meeting with Major Super, who's no longer the head of the National Guard but was at the time. And it was at that meeting where we actually got along very well. I asked for an endorsement. He said, I don't, paraphrasing here, but you know what? You're not as bad as I initially thought, and we'll definitely have a good relationship if you become governor. So the power of words and persuasion is a powerful tool, in my opinion. And that's also when Lilyanna was called the pink-haired dog. Lilyanna, how did you feel when that happened?
Not too great, because for one, right, I'm not. Second of all, that could have just been any other ordinary Joe working at the National Guard. That wasn't anyone of high rank.
I think it was a general.
Okay, well, we're gonna.
I
gloss
think that's
over
actually
that
the highest
part.
you can go.
Okay, listen, we're gonna gloss over that part, but regardless, okay, it's not very indicative of who I am. Okay, I'm just
I
a
understand.
humble assistant that tries to do her best with paperwork. That
Right.
every day, I if I get kidnapped, it's like every little emotional piece just breaks away. But
Yeah,
look, it's
yeah.
fine. It's fine.
I think she sounds very mentally stable, Mr. Lamb.
So
That's why
anyway,
she's the best assistant.
I would love to be first lady. Going back to that point, so if you can like run again or something, or like maybe I'll just run with Meek or whatever his name is.
What?
I would just.
Could
I
you
would
imagine?
love
Actually, though,
to do
Wait, could you repeat that
I
for a
would
second?
love to be first lady.
You'd love to be
What?
first lady, so you do what?
I don't know. I'm just gonna do what it takes to get my position. I just think that I'm very deserving of it personally, and like it would be a lot of fun.
You wouldn't
to have
marry
that
Meek to
happen.
become first lady and leave me, would you? Cass, when I met you on hotrussianbabes.com and we immediately fell in love, within 3 days we got married. I mean, yeah, that's a website that typically Russian women use to get citizenship to the U.S. and then immediately divorce afterward, but...
Mr. Lamb, allow me to just add clarification. The Jack Lamb podcast does not condone the use of this website, nor does it promote
That's
it
probably a
for
good
any
point.
reason.
Okay, well,
Anyway,
but listen,
anyway.
my point was, you wouldn't leave, because, yes, it's true love in our circumstance. I mean, sure, there's ups and downs, and you left me for Jimmy Carter for a few minutes when I was in jail. We can discuss that maybe in a little bit as well, but no, you wouldn't. I mean, the only way you'd become first lady is if I ran again, and nothing else, right?
like, what is Meek Long's net worth? Like,
I think over the billions. I'm pretty sure at this point.
How would he have become a billionaire by being governor?
What?
What the?
The lights went out.
Why did the lights go
are
out?
we like under attack again?
What in the
Hey,
world?
why is the
So,
TV
you-
yellow and
Yeah, it's like
orange?
yellowish.
Are
Is
we
this-
been recording still?
Was there a
Oh,
power
gosh.
outage?
I do hear.
Why are
I
the
do
lights
hear people.
flickering?
What is going on?
I hear noises, Mr.
Oh
Lamb. I'm
my
a bit
God.
worried.
Okay, I think it was just a short power outage, hopefully. Dear
Can't
Lord,
even
that
have
turned
a
into a
podcast under
Halloween set for a
control.
second.
Yeah, it did genuinely. I mean, it kind of looked cool. I'm not gonna lie.
We just couldn't see each other, that's all.
Yeah,
I thought
yeah,
it'd be safe in America.
yeah, easily.
With my security, yes.
As we have no security but me here. Yeah.
I don't know.
I will say, Mr. Lamb, I do want to talk about, like, okay, so after you lost the election, outside of the house, you were very, very dignified. You had you were very fine with losing. But
Yes.
I think you should just talk about how you were behind closed doors.
Well,
I
what are you
didn't
talking
want to
about?
tell you this, but when you were in the kitchen sobbing and eating ice cream on the floor,
Okay,
oh my
hold
God,
on.
it was so funny.
Bruce,
Yeah.
It was
all right.
so funny.
I think you should mention that you know, not every time do you have to
To
take
make
a
this
loss
point
with
very
grace.
clear, I lost the election. I accepted my defeat. Yeah, it's raining outside.
And
You
then
hear
he
that?
went home and ate ice cream and
No,
cried
no.
on the floor.
What I did was I stopped the ongoing riots in the streets, the violence that occurred in our streets, by calling for peace. I told my supporters, as well as Meek supporters who broke into my house, to stop the violence, because democracy is the way we do things in San Andreas, not...
You know, I could hear him crying in the shower.
He also asked me to go get him ice cream after we ran out.
Okay, all right.
Like,
He stopped talking to me for a bit. He's always
Okay,
Yeah.
to be very clear, once more, these are all funny, you guys.
I think his toupee fell
You're
off as well.
funny.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, let's not go that far, Bruce. Let's not go that
No,
in
like genuinely, I saw
conclusion-
his toupee.
It was so
His
sad to
toupee
watch.
was
It was a-
literally lying in the ice cream.
It was a
Like,
very
it was
close
kinda sad.
election, and that's what counts.
And
Maybe
you know, I
next
just thought
time.
that needed to be mentioned.
So, you guys think I should run again?
Yeah.
No, I
Yeah.
think you could win, honestly.
I don't think I will. I was just
No,
wondering.
No,
I
you remember what Meek said? This was his last term. He's not running again after this.
He
I
can't
genuinely think that
legally.
you could win this next one.
He only gets 2 terms, so you have free reign to do whatever, Mr. Lamb.
I mean, here's the thing. When the Lamb News Network is on top of the world, and when the Jack Lamb podcast is the #1 podcast in the world, and I get to sit back and moderate the big debates that are televised all across the world, I mean, what better position is there, right? I mean, do I have to be a governor to make change, to become the most famous news reporter in all of San Andreas? I don't
You
know
become
if
a
it's
lobbyist,
necessary.
technically.
Lobbyist?
I mean, theoretically.
No. Listen, Bruce, I've got the best job in the world right now. I have the best assistant in the world, the best wife, and the best producer, and the best security team. I mean, what more can I ask for? Being a politician is just trouble. It's just trouble, I tell you.
If you're like a politician, then like how much money do you get from that?
Well, it depends if you're a corrupt one or a faithful one.
You get money, right?
Yeah.
You get like a lot for money.
Well,
Aggressively medium money, I'm pretty sure.
I think if you get like a lot of money, then you should like go for it for both of our sakes.
I definitely would earn a lot more money if I stay in the private business.
Oh my god, I totally think you should run.
Well,
You know, I think she's got a point,
That'd be
actually.
so good for you, right? Like,
well, it would be good for San Andreas, but again, I don't know if I've got it in me to try again.
Good for me. I think that if you love me, you'll run.
Okay.
That too. Yeah. Don't you love your wife, Mr. Lamb?
Yeah.
Well,
Do you
folks,
want me to be happy? Do
leave
you want
me
to
in-
see me happy?
Leave me a comment if you think I should run again. I mean, again, I'm very, very hesitant, but
Happy
if
wife,
enough,
happy life.
if enough,
You know, it's true. It's a very
a
true
wiser
statement.
thing's never been said, Mr. Wesson. That's for sure.
I read that in a cookbook once.
I'm sorry.
Speaking of which,
I cook.
Oh.
I have to interrupt for a second for our second sponsor. Are you fearful about the population loss in San Andreas? Do you wish you could do something about it? If so, I recommend ScrewChew. Made right here in San Andreas, ScrewChew provides not just an adequate but an excellent experience for you and your loved one, or perhaps loved ones. I'll tell you this, customers are raving about ScrewChew's latest product, the Scrooby-Dooby Chew. What the which allows you to ERP twice as fast and at half the price of a generic product. You can find it at your local 7-Eleven or LTD, and you can also order online and receive a 20% discount when you enter code LAM. Who needs the red chair when you have ScrewChew? Okay, I'm sorry, what is going on with these lights?
I don't understand either.
And my apologies.
Like save.
My apologies to ScrewChew if that was an interruption there. But we have to just kind of deal with it. Can we get these lights back on, please? I'm sorry.
I'm not a technician. I don't
Also-
want to get zapped.
Mr. Lamb, I think I remember you actually mentioning just how well ScrewChew actually works.
Mr. Oh yes, it's an amazing product.
Oh yeah, I think
we
from
change
firsthand
topics?
experience, I think you know.
The sponsor time's over. Let's change
No,
topics.
no, I think
now.
no. We need to mention this, Lilyanna.
No,
Oh, thank God we're
The
back.
lights are on. Let's
Oh,
talk
we're-
about the joy of life and not that.
I need to seriously register a complaint with the local Los Santos. Oh dear.
Oh, I hear
There's a
gunshots out there,
storm.
but that's fine. That's
Yeah,
just
well-
Los Santos.
Without revealing our location here, I actually recently bought this podcast studio in southern Los Santos, and if you see gunshots or power outages, it's probably to be expected. That being said, it's definitely the best place for a podcast. Look at this studio. I mean, have we even mentioned that? Let me do a quick scroll around for this podcast. We have our studio here, lights, cameras. There we go. There's our basement green screen room. It's quite an amazing
I will
place.
say the inside does look so much better than the outside.
Okay, well, again, Bruce, we
Feels like
want to
an
give out too many.
interrogation room.
What?
Yeah, it does kind of give off that vibe. You're right.
No, listen.
Couch is kind of itchy too, honestly.
Reminds me
You
of
want
the-
to exchange
say
couches?
that.
Fine, exchange couches. I like this one. I like the color.
They're both the same color, Mr. Lamb.
Anyway, I feel like we should discuss. This is definitely a first episode type of topic. The beginning of the Lamb News Network. How
Oh my
we first
God, I
got
remember
started.
it like it was yesterday.
Yeah,
Oh.
I mean, wow. It was so long
Actually-
ago now.
You want me to kind of explain? You know what, Mr. Lamb, you start out with yours because I have a very different way that I joined in for this. I didn't originally start out as a producer or so.
Well, I was born in
first.
Blaine County, and then I graduated from Los Santos University with a degree of journalism. And shortly after graduation, I actually interned at Weasel News. Sure you know that already, because I discuss it a lot behind closed doors, just how, we'll say, corrupt that place is under the current leadership, Alex Thornberry. And so I left after a good year of interning there, but before I left, I'd picked up a lot of essential skills, a lot of, I learned a lot working there. That's the only good thing I'll give it. And I decided to create my own news station, the Lamb News Network. And originally, we were a small news station covering the events of Los Santos, most typically just crime. We weren't necessarily into politics just yet, as much as we are now. And yeah, we'd go around as a small news crew. We had, we had you, Mr. Wesson. We had Lilyanna with us, I believe. We had, let's see.
Do you remember
Jedith,
the snowstorm?
of course. Snowstorm. Tell me about it.
Yeah, we went to the snowstorm when we got our van kind of stuck out there in Blaine County for a while because of a massive snowstorm that hit down there.
Dear Lord.
We were trying to cover it, but it was like, ooh, yeah, that didn't go very well for us for a while. We kind of got stuck.
Was Lilyanna panicking?
Yeah,
Probably.
yeah. See, that was one of the first times that we actually went out as a news crew as well.
Yeah.
So it was like going out there and seeing all the blaring weather that was happening. You know, it was like, yeah, that probably wasn't a very good experience for a first-time news crew.
And you remember our very first headquarters was the Weasel Plaza over at Postal 666. We used their garage.
Oh my God,
we
the
set up
garage.
in their garage.
How could I forget?
Lilyanna,
I will say that's not our
Lilyanna,
proudest moments, Mr. Lamb.
yeah, Lilyanna was homeless, but I gave her a home. She
Yeah,
slept in the garage.
It smelled like gas and oil, and the cops came because they thought it was unethical.
They
Sounds
actually
like how
almost
he
arrested
treats
you,
me
Mr.
now.
Lamb.
Unethical.
Yeah, because you were
Yeah.
keeping her in the garage at that
I
point.
gave
I slept
her-
on a mattress, a plain mattress, and a blanket in the garage.
I gave her
And
a
I had
place
a
to
news
stay.
desk.
Okay, Lilyanna, if it wasn't for me, you'd probably be in some sort of homeless shelter up in Blaine County surrounded with a bunch of hobos. Now you have
Probably
bright
be
pink
better.
cotton candy hair that is well attended to, and because of I won't say because of me, of course, because of your tremendous talent as a secretary as well, is the reason why we're doing so well today, in my opinion.
Oh, that's really
She's-
nice of you, Mr.
Yeah.
Lamb. I like living in a bedroom. That's nice that I've
Yes.
had that for the past couple years or so.
Yeah. But we weren't always so lucky. It's thanks to our good work providing San Andreas the most accurate news reporting its citizens can ask for. That's why we rose to fame so quickly. And our feud with Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah, I was actually about to mention that. That went on for quite a while, Mr.
Oh,
Lamb.
yeah.
That was a very interesting just few months where we just bickered and battled them with
to be
raps and
clear,
stuff,
they
too.
started it. They
did start it.
When
They did
Samuel
start it.
L. Jackson ran for governor, he mentioned Lamb News as being fake news and saying that we shouldn't be able to have our media licenses because we're fake news or something like that. So yeah, we clapped back with a diss track and it obliterated them. Samuel L. Jackson Action News is no more. I mean, we took down an entire news network with a diss track.
We came into this industry guns blazing,
Yeah.
basically. You know, we came in like a bat out of hell, as they say. He's just immediately going after one of the biggest news crews in the station, and guess what, everyone? We won. We won that battle with Samuel Jackson Action News.
Yeah, you remember when they won the Best News Network of 2021?
I do.
Oh,
And
what a
guess who won
catalyst
this
that
year?
was. 2022,
Yeah.
there's a new winner, folks.
Lamb News, baby.
Ooh.
That's what I'm
So-
talking
Wow.
about. Look, all of our hard work finally paying off. Really, really went a long way.
Cass, I mean, it was a while before he even came to the U.S. I'm glad you finally get to hear these stories about how we got our starts, because I wasn't always the rich man that you knew me as. I was down in the slums of Los Santos working. I was a hard laboring man. Now I get to spend a lot more time in the office and with you, of course, at home. But yeah, back then, I mean, don't think I'm some poshy, you know, British teen on TikTok. No, I'm a hard-working man, Cass.
You can spend like more time in the office if you want. Like you're free to like
Okay.
give me the house or whatever.
All right. Well, I'll consider that. I appreciate it. You know, typically, you know, I have some buddies who constantly tell me, my wife is always telling me, why aren't you spending more time with me? Why aren't you home? My wife, she understands. She understands that I'm a very busy man.
I mean, like, you don't show up to like 3/4 of any dates we plan anyway.
Well,
so like,
really?
Well, sometimes
That's a scoop.
No. I think Cass, you got to tell me about those before you go. Like sometimes she just goes to the place and then texts me, come here, and it's a bit of a short notice, but that's something that we'll have to work on in our relationship.
Weren't you also like sleeping in the office for a bit because Cass was mad at you for missing like most of the dates?
Okay, again with these dates, no, this is not true. I'm not a bad.
Yes,
he
confirm?
He was late for our wedding, by the way.
He was.
I was in the back. I was waiting for my entrance. I was waiting to be announced.
Yeah.
Man needed an entrance.
Yes, and I got a pretty good one. Speaking of
Needs
which,
to be the most popular person in the room.
well, I mean, not necessarily,
Can't
but
let his
a
wife
scoop.
have any moment to herself.
well, no, just because I'm Jack Lamb, the most popular person in San Andreas, well, maybe, doesn't mean that.
I think Davey Lumen might have you beat there.
We got to get him on the podcast.
At some point, yeah.
He might be our first guest, actually, in episode 2. I reached out to him. He seems interested. Yeah, a little scoop there. So be sure to subscribe to the Lamb.
That's a scoop.
Yeah, the Jack Lamb podcast for a very, I'm sure, what's going to be a riveting interview. Yeah.
Mr. Lamb, if you're gonna do that's a scoop thing, you gotta point at the camera. You know, like yeah.
I don't point. I look. I just look at you.
Yeah, you're
very
just looking
intensely.
straight at me this entire
Yes.
podcast. Like, I think we should mention that at some point, but you know.
Staring at him.
I don't
Yeah,
know. I don't know how to do anything else, to be quite honest.
Well,
You won't even
Well-
stare
Oh,
at your
God dang it, why?
oh, well.
Stupid.
Speaking of scary situations, do you want me to go ahead and talk about one of my first missions that I remember with the Lamb News crew?
You might as well, because it's going to be another few seconds, I assume, before the power comes back up.
Probably. Well, it was one of our first times actually as a news crew, I'm pretty sure. But it was
So
right
bright.
after I was hired. One thing that you really wanted to make sure that that we had as a news crew was just protection from. You never know what kind of threats you're going to face in San Andreas.
Yeah.
And Lilyanna at that point had already been like at least bothered a little bit. So, you know, I came onto the crew and was hired to directly protect Miss Lilyanna. And one of our first missions, I remember specifically going down where the U.S. government didn't believe us when we were trying to save her from another person who was trying to kidnap her at that point. It was one of the first times this had happened. And we were just all over here just like, well, we're trying to save her. We're not trying to hurt her. So they thought that we were trying to kidnap Lilyanna. And I was over here protecting her. And we ended up in Cayo, Perico for months at that point, I believe. Right, Lilyanna? We were there for a long time.
Yeah, we were driving, and then I think it might have been Jet if there's somebody.
Yeah.
He got us a plane. You could fly a plane, I think. Yeah, that was a lot. That
Yeah.
was I barely remember, but at the same time, it's.
It was a very interesting situation where, you know, as a news crew, I didn't expect to be having this, you know, go against the U.S. government, but you know, I guess over this time we've just kind of found our path this way. You know, we've always been like the very scrappy news crew, and I guess even going into politics in the U.S. government, you know, we never really had a problem going into it.
You know why there's so little news crews in San Andreas? I mean, they're very, let's say, diverse. There are many diverse news networks in the rest of the United States, but when San Andreas became the 51st state of the United States, There initially were a lot of news crews, but now the reason that there are barely any is just because it's so dangerous. As you're describing, kidnappings, crime, violent muggings, all of those are increasing. I mean, still, they're increasing upon already being high. These rates of crime in San Andreas are ridiculous. It's partially why I ran for governor. But
yeah, I mean, listen outside here. I mean, we're hearing gunshots right now during the podcast.
I heard voices outside.
And it's not even like, it's so common. We're not even pausing. So there's a reason that only the strongest end up on top in this news business, specifically in San Andreas. The four of us have done very well, in my opinion.
It's been one heck of a journey, though, Mr. Lamb.
Yeah.
It's been like mainly me, I'd say.
Yeah.
Like I expect some thank yous or whatever, but like.
You know
Yeah, you
what?
guys,
Thank
like,
you,
good
Miss Cass Lamb.
Of course.
Yeah, you're amazing. We all appreciate you
I
here.
know, yeah.
How nice this has been.
So, Mr. Lamb, are we gonna get that toupee reveal, or is it
There's no toupee. Wesson, you need to stop instilling fake. Dear Lord, not again.
Oh my God!
Oh, no.
All right, now's the perfect time to do it, Mr. Lamb. Take off the toupee. Take it off now. No, they won't be able to see. They'll have to zoom in.
Oh, Mr. Wesson, you little jokester.
Look, I'm just trying to instill the truth into these people.
I mean, thank goodness for the TVs. They're the only thing
Yeah, the
lighting
TV's
this
still
room
going.
up.
It's very beautiful, actually, in yellow. I'm not gonna lie.
I know. It's
It
a
does look
unique
very
twist.
like very Halloween themed, though.
Well, this is what you
Yeah.
get when Meek's the governor, huh?
True, very true. You all could have stopped this. Oh. Yeah, I'm not gonna insult our viewers, Mr. Lamb. I'm
maybe-
sure they voted for the right people.
Right. And I probably shouldn't
And I-
because, we might get him on the podcast as well. So
Oh
I
yeah, that's
think
right. True.
that
Yeah.
everyone is entitled to their political opinion. I
Right.
think that they're entitled to whatever they wish, and I think we here on the podcast, shouldn't be should be very open.
there we go.
Are you a filmocrat, Mrs. Lilyanna?
Actually, I don't affiliate with any party. I'm kind of just a
She's a
neutral.
Well, that's good. Hey, so am I. I ran as an independent during my run.
Yeah. You know what? Yeah, I'm part of the Gamer Nation. So, that's my affiliation.
I think
I don't do
discussing
the party.
San Andrean politics are a very hot topic, and I'm sure we'll get into it, especially with some recent accusations that the BCSO is a little more corrupt than we might have expected. Now, I asked Sheriff Towers if he had statements in response to these allegations. He didn't give me any, but I mean, I know the good people of the BCSO, and I hope that they're able to explain these accusations. Some of them are particularly hideous, and
I'd like to see them on the podcast at some point. That might be a good way to do it.
a good way to clear the air. Perhaps get one person on each side and let them debate it out, because having a strong law enforcement in San Andreas is what keeps faith in our people that we still have a secure nation. Is what I would have said had I become governor. There would have been prosperity and peace during my reign. Perhaps there will be
Reign?
one day.
Cops arrested
You
me.
mean
once.
your
Perhaps,
term, right?
perhaps rain
Yeah.
was a poor
Yeah,
word.
Rain makes it sound like you're some sort of dictator.
Right.
Mr. Lamb.
As a
Little
historical
ambitious,
implications.
Mr. Lamb.
I will say, Mr. Lamb, I do have a question for you, and I think it'd be a very good way to kind of what do they call that? Not personify. Is it personify when you like make yourself more relatable?
Sure.
I don't know, whatever. But I do have a question.
Humanize.
You've been doing this a long time, Mr. Lamb, and as you're like your right hand man, I think that it'd be very interesting to know what is your proudest moment as you've lived here in Los Santos and San Andreas. What are you most proud of that you've
Yeah,
accomplished
Jack.
while you were here?
What is your best moments here?
Okay, well, of course. I'll give you two. Number one, of course, was searching up on hot Russian babes and finding the hottest Russian babe of all, my beautiful now wife, Cass Lamb. Of course.
That's so sweet.
That's very sweet.
Number two.
No,
Our wedding, of course.
Our wedding. And if I had to choose a number 3, it would certainly be when we finally won the Best News Network Award of 2022, because all of our work that we put in throughout 2021 and 2022 at that particular moment was finally validated by the entire government of San Andreas. We were voted by the people, and it was a symbolic gesture that certainly meant a lot to me personally, and I'm sure all of our employees as well.
Oh yeah, it's like, oh god, from going from like basic nobodies to winning just the best news station. That was just it felt very surreal. I will say, Mr. Lamb.
Oh, it was a special day, and that was actually in the middle of my run for governor too.
Yeah. I'm sure that helped as well.
Oh, I'm sure it did. Yeah, of course. Cass.
Now, if you would have won, do you think that would be your proudest moment? You know,
I don't know. Perhaps. I wanted to ask Cass. Yeah. I mean, I've always wondered, and you've always been quite elusive on this topic, so I was wondering if maybe once and for all we can maybe delve a little bit into your life back in Russia, what it was like before you came here. I mean, you haven't told me too much.
No, I'm all set, thank you.
Oh.
All right, moving on. Lilyanna?
Well, what in particular?
Yeah. Well,
I'm sure she's very private about
yeah, I'm sure. Just what was your life like before you moved here? I mean, was it good? Was it bad?
I mean,
I like to think that I made your life a lot better, of course.
Well, certainly. I mean, the way you found me, after all. My life before the U.S. was a little more, I guess, archaic.
Interesting word choice.
That I lived a similar lifestyle to what I do now, but not through my favorite meat.
And I dare ask, was I the first person that you... were there other Russian men that you dated before me?
Well, what would you
that's
call
a good side.
Dated?
Okay, moving on.
You know, I will say, Mr. Lamb, that the idea of, it wasn't that you made her life better. You've given her an opportunity for even more of a good life. You know what I mean? Like, that's just, that's kind of how I think that we should look at it. You know what I mean?
Okay, I see. I understand.
I have a lot more freedom to live the life that I want here.
Now that I like to hear. Yes. I think, don't we also own the largest property in all of Los Santos?
I believe one of, if not the biggest, yeah.
It might be.
I mean, like, we better, right? Like,
I suppose
like
so.
we do, right?
Yeah,
Wait, Miss Cass, what would you do if you found out that he owned the seconds?
Oh dear.
Oh my God, we're getting the first and the second then. Perfect.
Mr. Lamb, I've always been curious. You say you have a lot of wealth, but is there a number that you can give us? Maybe your net worth, perhaps?
I am forced by my lawyers to keep that information secretive. Besides, it's hard to determine. I'm invested in a lot. I've got a little money in the bank, but it's constantly, flowing in and out depending on needs.
Well, the reason I ask is because I've been trying to use the company credit cards, and they keep getting declines for some reason.
Yeah, I know. The thing, I'll just give you now, especially after the popularity our news network got during the campaign. It's in the 100 million range for sure, well above.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So, if I were to tell you, Mr. Lamb, that I did buy, in fact, a exotic tiger, and it's being shipped to our address within a week.
It's a joke, right?
Yeah.
Wesson.
Oh my God, a tiger?
Yeah,
Wesson,
it's a little baby
just
tiger.
Like the cougars we have.
No,
Yeah.
you know
Yeah, exactly.
you know my rule about animals in the house.
They have to have hair. I get it. I get that they have to have hair. This lion has hair, Mr. Lamb.
It's.
I think that your toupee situation is really starting to affect the pet policy.
Can we put him in our backyard?
I think we could. Yeah, we can keep him like in the tennis court. I'm sure.
Yeah.
You know.
Do you not remember when my wife ordered a cougar online? Actually, two cougars. And they mauled me almost to death.
How could you forget about the second one? I can't believe you.
They were
still not over that.
They were so sweet. They would like
Cass.
lay down with us. They're
Those
so
cops
sweet to Cass
killed
and
them.
Cass, they almost killed me. The cougars you
And
ordered
you
on
killed them.
Amazon. They
And you killed
That
them.
was their way of showing love.
self-defense. In self-defense. Hey, and our head of security, Woodrow, he barbecued them. I mean, maybe you talk about he put them on the grill. You remember that?
Don't remind
You're.
Don't remind me.
I don't want to hear about.
This is why we.
Right now.
Listen.
He gave me some meat later that day. Are you telling me
If you.
that I ate
Oh my god.
Please. Please.
No.
Stop this.
All in all, if you order any more animals to the house, there has to be a professional trainer with that animal at all, especially if it's a big one. All right.
I'm professional. I can take care of them. Okay.
Yeah,
You just
I
didn't
literally.
let me.
You know what, Mr. Lamb? I'm just saying, if you see a tiger box show up at our, at our front door within a week, you know now.
Okay.
Actually, it's a lion, but the little baby lions, like little.
Oh, lion.
Yeah, little
Oh
baby
my God,
cub.
That's so cute.
Yeah,
I'm so excited.
I'm naming him Jerry.
Jerry. Okay, we
Yeah.
can talk about that later.
What, you don't like the name Jerry?
No.
Okay, well.
Maybe for a cat.
Wesson, you know how you have the title producer?
Yeah.
Okay, well, you're gonna have to
L-
modify that or remove that.
Am I
if
Am I getting fired even? Okay, should we talk about how I got fired from head of security?
If I see a tiger in my house,
Okay. Let me.
Oh my
explain.
God, we can have him on the podcast.
Yeah, we can. Wait. He can sit like on the table while we.
Yes.
we are not having a cougar or a tiger or a lion or any large bear-like animal on the podcast because I want to live.
Not
He didn't say
even a
cheetah.
deer?
A cheetah would match. my
Yeah, he didn't say
shirt.
cheetah. So
What about a deer? Those are pretty majestic and.
why would you
beautiful.
have a deer as a pet?
The lion
Because
would
they
kill
won't
it.
hurt us. Yeah, that's true.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I suppose this is a good transition into... If you want to see any particular people on this podcast, please let us know in the comments because, again...
Or lions.
We're open to anyone, no matter how controversial. The more famous, the better. So let us know.
Mr. Lamb hates animals.
Yeah, he does say animal. We're accepting
Animal
animals
hater.
I
as
hate
well.
animals that try to kill me.
He was trying to cuddle.
Antagonize them next time. Then.
Yeah, poking him with a stick, trying to hit him. I
Oh,
don't
they
understand you.
animals.
Yelling at them.
I'm just...
Look, Mr. Lab. Look. I think that I think we should talk about me being head of security again. I feel like that might be a very.
You think Woodrow's doing a bad job? You want to be head of security? You're already a producer. How much work can you do?
Mr. Lab, I've been able to. Technically, I feel like every time I'm producing stuff as well.
All right,
for the
we'll
channel.
talk about this after the podcast. We'll discuss. All right. Well,
Yeah.
how about it? Our first podcast. Any final words, guys? Any words of encouragement? Again, in the future, we're probably just going to have one guest at a time, and we'll have long, thorough conversations about anything San Andrean politics, about the biographies, I suppose. If the person has a biography for some reason, I'll definitely do my research beforehand, but otherwise, I want to delve deep into the people's history. I don't think people know much about Jimmy Carter. I don't think people know much about the history of Davy Lumen. There's a lot of things we can learn on this podcast. What do you guys think?
Didn't Jimmy Carter make the peanut butter?
No.
No, you think there's a different. You're thinking of a different one.
Oh. So he didn't make Jif?
No.
So.
Oh, well,
No.
Mr. Lem, I do have something to say before we sign off. I think it's very important.
Yeah, what do you want?
Toupee reveal at 10,000 subscribers.
Okay.
Yeah, so make sure you hit that subscribe button because we are.
Mr. Wesson, I don't want to get a strike for lying, okay?
Mr. Lamb,
I don't want to give our viewers false. But listen, what you can expect on this podcast is just as exciting as a toupee reveal if one were to happen in theory, which would be physically impossible.
Mr. Lamb, I'm gonna.
So
take
are you
your
like
toupee.
making money off this? Like,
Of
are you getting, like,
course.
paid per episode or something?
Yes, we had 2 sponsors this
Okay.
episode, but also if you want to sponsor the Jack Lamb podcast, reach out. If you have a restaurant you want me to promote, pay me, and we'll do it for sure.
So
Okay.
how much for this toupee reveal, Mr.
All
Lamb?
right.
Like,
Anyway.
Okay.
You'll see
Can't
these
wait
3
to see more
probably behind the
episodes.
scenes of the podcast, but any last words, guys? Lilyanna will be here. Cass probably will be here behind the scenes as well,
Yeah.
and Bruce especially. Yeah, any final words, guys?
No, Los Santos, just remember, take it easy, try to stay safe, and if you're anything like me, always have security around you at all times if you can afford it. If not, find a way to protect yourself. I'm just too scared of guns to do it myself.
Donate, yeah, donate to the podcast.
Yeah.
Donate to like the.
Mr. Lamb, I think I know our sign-off phrase. That's the scoop.
That's kind of.
That's
What do you
kinda
mean
lame,
that's
Bruce.
kind
That's
of-
kind of weird.
You're kind of showing your age a little bit, Mr. Wesson.
What do you
I'm sorry
mean?
to
There's-
say it.
Kinda.
The best podcast in the world all have a sign-off
Mr.
phrase.
Mr. Wesson,
Okay, listen, pink
Ladies and
dog, you know,
gentlemen,
sometimes
thank you very much for watching and listening to the first episode
this.
of the Jack Lamb podcast. The first.
paper.
First of
Mr.
many.
Wesson, this is for old people, Mr. Wesson. Notice
Oh,
how it's
really?
old
Oh,
and
well,
faded.
your
Oh, dear.
generation is completely
All
stuck
right.
on iPads.
All right.
Well, your generation sucks.
Before this go off the rails, this is Jack Lamb. Be sure to subscribe to the Jack Lamb podcast, and we will see you next time.
Subscribe.